Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was just understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court. And we don't take issue with we're not disputing the definition here. What we're saying is that the way it applies in practice is to exclude birth-sex males categorically from women's teams, and that there's a subset of those birth-sex males where it doesn't make sense to do so according to the state's own interest.
Well, how can a court determine whether there's discrimination on the basis of sex without knowing what sex means for equal protection purposes?
I think here we just know that we basically know that that they've identified pursuant to their own statute, Lindsay qualifies as a birth-sex male, and she's being excluded categorically from the women's teams as the statute. So we're taking the statute's definitions as we find them, and we don't dispute them. We're just trying to figure out, do they create an equal protection problem?
The US Supreme Court has been hearing arguments in two cases challenging bans on transgender athletes in student sports. The arguments address whether state bans are permitted under federal law.
Our nation's highest court hearing arguments on transgender athlete participation bans. The issue before the Supreme Court after a college student in Idaho and a high schooler in West Virginia challenged laws in their states that restricted transgender students from playing on sports teams that are consistent with their gender identities.
So how do you square our various case law, all of whom involved a subclass of people who challenged on equal protection grounds their exclusion from a definition?
At the heart of both cases, whether the state bans violate equal protections of the 14th Amendment and Title IX, which bans discrimination in education on the basis of sex.
Idaho's law classifies on the basis of sex because sex is what matters in sports. It correlates strongly with countless athletic advantages. If women don't have their own competitions, they won't be able to compete. Gender identity does not matter in sports.
The states argue their bans are about creating an even playing field. The challengers say they're being discriminated towards on the basis of sex and transgender status.
By categorically excluding all students with the biological sex of male from women's teams. Sex classifications like that are closely scrutinized under the Equal Protection Clause to ensure they rest on evidence, not supposition.
Across the country, 27 states have enacted restrictions on transgender students' participation in sports. A ruling from the Supreme Court on the Idaho and West Virginia laws is expected by the end of June.
So one of our top priorities of this mission is promoting greater affordability. Now, that's a word used by the Democrats. They're the ones that cause the problem. The one thing, they stick together. They don't have some of the people that we have. I don't know, it's a genetic thing. It's something in the blood. We got some real losers, mostly great, but I wouldn't use the name Romney because I'm in his sort of territory, so I would never use that name. But all right, I'll use it. They don't have a Mitt Romney that votes against everything. They don't have a Rand Paul that votes against everything. I got him elected twice. He was a stone cold loser. I went to Kentucky where I won by a lot. I did a rally for him. Then I did another rally, he won. Then I went the second time, he won. Then he votes against all the time. It's just crazy. I don't get it. Then you have Lisa Murkowski and you have Susan Collins. Disasters. And you had a gentleman from Indiana that I don't believe it, Todd Young, he voted against. And you'd say, why are you voting against? They can't give you an answer. They're unable to give you an answer. It's like, why are they against the attack on Venezuela? They're against the attack after they found out it was the most successful attack, probably the most talented, most brilliant tactically attack that we've had maybe in 100 years. And they're against it. Why? It's one thing if the attack failed. I'd probably do that too, a change. I'd be in favor. Then if it failed, I'd say, I told him not to do it. That's what they do. But here we have one of the most successful attacks ever, and they find a way to be against it. It's pretty amazing. But it's a shame, and we have some others, but not many. We have a great party, but we have people, the Democrats, whether you like them or not, they stick together like glue. They have horrible policy. Thank God they have horrible policy, because they're smart, they're evil, they're vicious, but they have bad policy. For instance, you could be a genius and try selling men playing in women's sport. You could be a genius, try selling transgender for everybody, open borders, let the world come in, let the world's prison population come into the United States, including all of the murders, 11,888. That's what we're trying to get out of Chicago and Minnesota and these places. So they stick together, which I admire because I'm a very loyal person, but they have horrible policy. Can you imagine if they had good policy? They were on this morning talking all the reasons that men should be playing in women's sports. They had a football guy there, flag football. This guy was like 6'6", he weighed 290 pounds with zero body fat. And they had a few young women. They were the size of his leg. He wouldn't have had to run. He could have just walked. They couldn't have done a thing about it. 10 of them would have to jump on him that wouldn't have had any impact. I don't think he would have been like a fly. It's so ridiculous. It's so demeaning to women. It's so demeaning. Look at the weightlifting records. I mean, the record got beaten by 112 pounds, a record that stood for 18 years. 1 ounce they'd put on, stood for 18 years. Guy comes along who was a poor lifter as a man. He was at the lower portion of the class, comes along and broke the record by 112 pounds. Think of that. They've fought for years to beat that record. How about the swimming records? I mean, you can go to sleep during the time the man comes in and the woman. You can go take a nap for a little while. How about the long distance race that took place not so long ago? Long distance, these marathon deals. They had top men, top women. The man came in. The woman came in 5 hours and 14 minutes and 36 seconds behind the man. Think of it. You're waiting. The man comes in. Now you're waiting 5 hours. What do you do if you're the parents? You go home and sleep for a while. Who the hell wants that? It's so demeaning to women and who are great athletes. It's so demeaning to them. And it's right now in the Supreme Court. I can't believe it would even go to the Supreme Court. I mean, could you imagine 20 years ago talking about men playing in women's sports? They'd think you're crazy. Or transgender for everybody? If you said there will be no mutilation on children, That's one of my standing lines. We will not allow the mutilation of a child. Can you imagine having to say that 15 years ago? People would say, is that guy crazy? Of course we won't. But we're living in a different time. It's a crazy time we're living in.